but also just like, man, the acting. Oh,
Oof.
I
You
just
can
need a
tell the
moment to like,
writers.
whew.
You can tell the writers and director were like, "Oh shit, we've got these two together in the scene. Let's write the shit out of this scene. Let's
They were
give
like,
them
let's
something."
give Don
Ugh,
Cheadle and
ugh,
Sam motherfucking Jackson one of the
let,
best dialogue
let them
scenes
act.
ever made.
Ugh.
Ah,
Welcome to Something to Marvel About, a podcast where we discuss and dissect MCU releases. My name's English Dave, and joining me to play a game of Tell Me Something I Don't Know is my co-host Raven. What's up, Raven?
what up, Dave?
We're here to talk about Secret Invasion Episode 2. Promises, promises, promises. Oh, Nick, you're making promises. Oof, that you
Sad.
haven't kept, making people mad and stuff. You know what I like about this show? It did a great job of reminding me, especially how the episode opens. They did a great freaking job of Nick Fury's old, like de aging,
Yeah.
because you're
Well,
like,
I
oh
mean,
shit.
also de-aging Sam Jackson is just shaving his beard, but
But still, I mean, Captain. We see clips of Captain
I
Marvel,
was like, is
and
this
it's like,
CG or did they just shave his face?
no, it's de aging. Because if you actually look side by side, there's like less wrinkles in the face and
Mm.
things like that. Also, I think it's also a testament to someone like Sam Jackson because he's been in the industry so long. They have like lots of like photo
Right, like it
references and
actually
video
looks like
references.
right. That makes sense.
They have stuff to reference from a lot of stuff, and also, even CGI black don't crack.
Why would
Um,
it? Takes from the source, right?
right, 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 right.
Why would it?
So after recap, let's get straight into it. After recap of Captain Marvel, when they're like, "We will help you find a new home," we cut to Brixton, London, 2 years later, 1997, where Fury is introduced to young Gravik. So we get to see Gravik's storyline, at least its intro. You and I talked about it last week about what relationship Gravik is to Fury, and you called it, Raven. There were some people thinking son, but you said maybe he helped raise him, but not quite. They're not quite a family. There's no shared DNA, but he helped raise him, and we get like a hint at that in this episode. The fact that Gravik, as well as others, started buying into what Fury was selling. If you help me do this stuff, I will help you find your home. You keep your word, I will keep mine. What did you think of that setup at the beginning?
That was tough because I think anytime that you see any adult make a promise to a kid, you automatically cringe because, as an adult that's been a kid, we've all been there, where an adult promised you something and maybe didn't pull through, but a promise is such a big deal when you're a kid, that you don't recover and bounce back as easy as you'd like to, like even as an adult, I'm sure there's promises, Dave, that you still remember to this day that adults didn't execute. Um, cue sad music,
Taking
violin
me back.
plays. Um, but yeah, so I think I do love how you get to see how the scrolls would be on board, how the scrolls could, or at bare minimum, be sold a dream, and sadly, because we know Nick Fury, I don't want to think that he's not going to pull through on the deal, or I don't want to think that he was just saying false promises to get them to work as undercover shape-shifting agents for the US government for 30 years. Whatever, but it's tough. It's tough. But I do like that we get to learn a bit about Gravik and Gravik's character. Because like I wasn't sure in watching the show in episode 1 if Gravik was a big deal already in a different series or in Miss Marvel, and like I just didn't remember him. Not Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, because Miss Marvel's a whole different show now. Um, but yeah, in Captain Marvel, I was like, was Gravik a big deal? And I kind of like missed him or whatever. But I like that we get a backdrop and we get to see him as a kid, and you realize that he was already smart. He was already, a survivor. He was fast learning and what do you call it, resourceful.
Hmm.
He managed to escape enemy lines and infiltrate and steal one of their ships. So
His parents were killed.
yeah, and his parents were killed. So it's not the type of kid to fuck with. And from day one, where him and Nick Fury met, he had nothing to lose. And I think that that's really important in terms of character development, is realizing that you have this kid who's at his wits' end, who, has seen all the worst parts of war. but also is, born into a fight, and knows nothing else. So I do like the context behind Gravik, and I think that it just makes him that much more kind of scary as a villain or antagonist in this series.
What I liked in this scene as well, it's a very subtle thing that I missed the first watch. I watched it twice, and you notice it, but you don't really kind of pay attention to the gravitas of it all. That Talos introduces Nick Fury and says, "I trust this man. You should too." To the other
See,
scrolls.
now this is something I also want to mention. I don't know when I'm gonna
Okay.
mention in the show, but it may as well be now.
Okay.
I think there's more to Talos than we think. I think there's
Okay.
a possibility that Talos is behind the
More.
larger plot. I think even if his intention isn't bad or his intention isn't the same as Gravik's to where he wants to kill innocent people, but I do think that Talos is in on some sort of plot for Skrulls to take over, whether it
Mhm.
be discreetly or, public eye. I think that there's a lot more going on with Talos than we think. And I also feel like, even though it might not all be some big plot, but a part of me is like, I would definitely tell everybody, hey, yeah, this is his fault. Anything that happens is this guy. Oh, Nick Fury, oh, he's the greatest guy. It's because we trust him. So if anything went wrong, you're not really the fallback guy. Like, granted, it's your fault that you trusted him, but you just seem like, what do you badly trusted a friend, not
Mhm.
that you were plotting,
Mhm.
a whole uprising. So I don't know.
I mean, that is definitely a theory that's been going around. I kind of half believe in, half no. I think that it just either way, it speaks to what the show's trying to do, which is create like paranoia. Like, don't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's a scroll. Like, who's that? So I think it's testament to that. It's just because I was thinking it sometimes. Then sometimes I see some scenes. I'm like, then if he is a bad guy, then that scene is only for the audience because why would he be asking so and so to speak to Gravik and stuff like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm kind of halfway. It could go either way. Shit.
Because I
The
feel
way
like,
he shapes.
yeah, I
Gone.
almost feel like he has a big plot, but him and Gravik aren't working like on the same goal. Like Gravik
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
monkey wrench in his plan also, but I do
Okay.
feel
Okay.
like
Okay. Okay.
there's more going on with Talos
There's
than we
more going
think.
on.
Like I
Yeah.
almost don't even believe Soren is dead. Like
Yeah.
it's just the off-screen
Yeah.
death with Marvel.
Yeah.
Like we
If
know
you didn't
about
see it,
off-screen deaths.
you didn't see it.
If you don't see the spread leg, the blood spill, and the mouth open, usually there's a chance they'll come back. Which also leads me to
This is true.
Maria.
Ugh. I mean, we can skip forward to that.
Confirmation.
We
We had
get
hoped.
confirmation. We hoped. We hoped. I mean, we had. If you have the mother there to witness the body, then you know.
Right. Once they brought mom out, I was like, damn, she did. She did.
Like, oof, oof. That scene when Fury kind of apologizes and she's like, "But you're Nick Fury. She believed in you." I was like, "Damn, you are Nick Fury." Like, she would follow you to gates of hell and back. I'm like, ah. I mean, if you're gonna put your trust in anybody in this field, it would be Nick Fury. If you believe anybody could get anything done, the impossible, it would be Nick Fury. And you're telling me that you failed? Oof,
Well, that's also the theme of the episode, no? Is that
oof.
one, have your faith in Nick Fury. People put their faith in Nick Fury, or Skrulls put their faith in Nick Fury. We've all put our faith in Nick Fury, and Nick Fury can't deliver. This is the one time Nick Fury can't deliver, and that's what it's all about, and that's what every character keeps saying to him. That's one of the last things Maria Hill said to him. Is like, you're not the same Nick Fury. All this stuff is affecting you, and it's like, no, it really is. Like Nick Fury suddenly isn't a man of his word. Like even we feel this way about Nick Fury. Nick Fury is letting us down. That hurts.
You're the reason I'm taking my daughter back home in a
Home
box.
in a
Oof,
box.
oof.
Look what you did to mom
But
and Rhodey. Because you forget
right,
too. I appreciate that too. That you have moments where you remember, like, it's not just about Nick. It's not just Nick Fury. This is like Maria was a friend to other people, to other agents. And I do love that too. Like even Rhodey just being like, "Bro, you fucked up. You killed our friend, man."
yeah, yeah, yeah. But before we get there, Nick Fury wants to know. Tell me something I don't know. he after they get away from the bombing, because this episode picks up right after last week's bombing. They get on the train to Warsaw from Moscow, and Nick Fury starts thinking that there's something that Talos isn't telling him, which ends up being the fact that there is a million Skrulls on Earth
A
Raven.
million is a lot.
A million shapeshifters is a lot.
Shit,
It's a
five is
lot.
a lot. Five
Right,
shapeshifters could cause a lot of
right,
havoc. Two,
right.
one.
And and Nick Fury berates Talos for not telling him, and Talos is like, "You disappeared, and I had nothing else. This is what could I have done? I had no choice. You were staying up in that place. You didn't come down. Talos's frustrations come through as well. When he says, "Oh, what did he say?" He says, "We were being hunted across the universe. I had two choices. I could let my people be annihilated, or someone hit them here to Earth. What would you have done?" And then the Fury said, "This is not about me." Talos responds, "Oh, right, but you're fine using us as your spies and your errand boys, as long as it's on your terms." And I love what Fury's response. The host gets to set the terms of the visitation. I was like, damn, he's out of line. He's they're right.
The worst thing about it is they're both right. And I think that's the
They're
biggest
both
issue
right.
with
It's a great written
that's
scene.
the best and worst thing about Marvel is that there are no true villains. Everybody has their motivations and everybody has a motivation that you can, relate to. And the same as Talos
Understand?
says, if it was you, you would have done the same. And the truth of the matter is, he would have done the same. We've seen what Nick Fury's done for his country, for his people, for his team. So for Nick Fury to think that it's wild that, Talos, a Skrull, would, bring all of his people here, all of, his kind here, especially when they're the last survivors of their kind. Come on, Nick. And also, sadly, again, Nick, you're slacking. You should have been on top of this. Your job was to look after the scroll and was to take charge. You were the head of, oh, well, I know the most about the scrolls. I've known them the longest. I've been here since they first landed. Well, if that's the truth, you should have known how many were here, Nick.
Mhm.
You
The
know?
irony, he's down a space station that's supposed to be a protection station that's already been invaded by aliens that you didn't keep an eye on.
That you technically kept safe, that you aided and abetted,
Yeah.
technically. If they should uprise, whatever, technically all of this is your fault because you told the government that they
Mm-hmm.
weren't a threat. Nobody else looked after them after you left.
Mm-hmm.
Why would
Mm-hmm.
they? Nick Fury said they're not a threat, you
I
know?
like I, I like what Fury says there. Humans can't coexist with each other. You've been here long enough to know that. We've been at war with each other since we could walk upright. There's not enough room or tolerance on this planet for another species.
He ain't lied though.
Wow.
He ain't never lied.
Wow.
The second
Wow.
he
I mean,
said there's
again,
not enough tolerance, I was like, ooh,
not enough
tolerance
room
is the
or
word.
tolerance.
Tolerance is the
Again,
word. Because we can barely
the
tolerate our
undertones.
own.
I mean, you mentioned it before, the undertones of racial inequality and racism. It's highlighted. They don't. Nick Fury is very much aware that he's a black man in a position of power in certain places, and people are always going to look at him. We'll come to that scene where we talk about that later. But before that, where are we? Da, 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 da. Oh, we start getting news of the bombing. I think this might be outside of like alien stuff in terms of human based. Well, this is alien stuff, but in terms of outside of space stuff, this might be one of the highest casualties that we've confirmed on Earth since superpowered people started coming. 2,000 plus
Maybe
people, and
since
Rhodey says
Ultron.
later, and
Ultron was
we
like a
don't know
whole country though.
how many died, and so we don't get confirmed numbers, right? We don't. This one we actually get numbers where it's like 2,000 plus, and Rhodey says it could be tripled by the time the numbers come through. The big events we've had here on Earth. We've had Battle of New York. We don't have a huge died, but that was New York. We've had what set up the ball rolling for for Civil War in South Africa. Hulk versus um, Tony and the Hulkbuster. And then I don't know how much Thanos did when he came. I can't remember. He just brought the spinny thing. They didn't really attack as
Well,
much
even
as probably
what's her name,
Wakanda.
Wanda? Accidentally on their little on the mission. Where are they? Um,
No, that's what I'm saying. That was South
yeah, yeah,
Africa.
South
That's what I'm
Africa,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what sparked the
And
thing.
even
But that was a
that
building.
was significantly less people. That was like 20.
Yeah,
And look how big
this
of
is
a deal the fallout was.
so
They
this
put
was a
Wanda on
big,
ice
big
for
deal.
that.
Right, right. This was a big, big deal, and everything's blamed. Obviously, the graphics plan to blame it on the Americans. That's happening. That's what everyone believes. That's going true.
Yeah.
So And in order to kind of push his will, Gravitas has a meeting with the Skrull Council, which ends up ending with him becoming the one and only head general. What did you think of that scene? And we see a lot of people that we saw in the news broadcast, a lot of the politicians and people, they were all
All of them.
Skrulls. So what I find interesting that we're seeing, we knew that there was a subsect of Skrull, right? Skrull, right? We knew that Gravik was a different sect. He kind of did things on his own. So we've only seen Gravik's people kind of trying their best, scrounging wherever they can. And now it seems how the rich people live, the rich Skrulls, the good ones. Well, not when I say good ones, I'm saying that the ones that have it good. And they're willing to play the game and keep it quiet. They're not very happy what Gravik is doing. What do you think about this change of power?
Well, I love that we finally get to kind of see the dynamics and behind the scene politics of the scrolls because we don't really get to see kind of their hierarchy or what they're like socially amongst themselves. So I think that it's kind of nice that we get a backdrop. We get to understand that it's not all of the scrolls, obviously, that feel this way, which is what we were told in episode one. But Talos said, no, he's one of them. We're finally getting to see where the lines are drawn and who they are and who us are, or quote unquote us. But I absolutely love Gravik's argument. He makes a fair point, and also the actor was his Kingsley Ben Adir.
Yeah.
Um, love hate him so much. Such a great villain. Absolutely hate him. His small mannerisms, his like mouth movements. Something simple as like, I think it's a war. Um,
Whoa!
I think it's a war,
Whoa!
slapping the table. I was like, wow. But it's funny because as much as he has this disdain for humans, he can't help but react the way that humans react. So I think that that's an interesting thing. Is that what do they say? Like you can only do things with so long before you become the villain yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's what we're seeing is like as much as Gravik says, I prefer dogs. Humans don't keep their people in cages and what is it, prostitute and all these other things. And it's the truth. He is correct on that. But humans go to war, as we said with Nick Fury. Humans have been, humans can't coexist with each other since we've been able to walk upright. So I do love the dynamic, and I do love that Shirley. What does she do? There's no, her
Oh,
name is
well, sure.
Shirley.
Well, yeah, her name is Shirley. What I do like is that the one that doesn't side with him.
Yeah, 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 she's a political
Yeah, yeah,
leader.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I do love her argument as well, and I love that there is at least one scroll that feels that way. Like look, we ended up here because of a war. And the truth of the matter is too, if you're the very last of your kind, you really want to fight right now? Do you want to risk, soldiers' lives and stuff? Even as in last episode, where Talos was upset with Nick Fury for shooting the art dealer, where he's like, I said no. And you realize with Talos, every single scroll's life matters because he's trying to preserve and protect the scrolls. Where I feel like you finally get to see Gravik's intentions are more so he's just angry. And as much as he
He
tries to
doesn't care.
say, oh, this is for all of you and I'd be nothing without you guys or whatever, we see how disposable scrolls are to him in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it
Mm-hmm.
be scrolls that don't side with him being against him, and also what ends up
His own
happening
person.
to what is it, Brogan?
Yeah. It's two things you mentioned here. One, something that is mentioned in previous episode, we made a joke about it as a means for the main cast not to be in scroll makeup. They said the longer that you're in this human form, the more you can sell it. And I think there's more to it than that. Maybe it's also because you can sell it because it affects you, right?
Mm.
It affects you and how you feel. And like you mentioned, Gravik is just angry. And also with Shirley, what she mentions, specifically, we did not end up homeless refugees because we were unwilling to wage war. We ended up homeless refugees because we were too willing. And it makes me reframe the war they were in. We look at the war against the Kree as the Skrull as victims. And it's like maybe they weren't victims. Maybe they were just as bad
Maybe
and
they
just
just
as
lost.
yeah, they just lost. Exactly. They just lost the
Dude, you
war.
just
It
lost.
wasn't literally where I was going with that. It's like you just lost the war.
Yeah.
And she was like,
There's a winner
it
and there's
wasn't
a
like,
loser when you play games. I
right?
don't, I don't know. Stupid games, stupid prizes.
She alludes that we weren't just like sitting here going la 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 la. Oh shit, they're attacking us. No, you wanted this war. You were too willing to have this war, and you lost it because you're too willing. And that's why she doesn't want to go to this war anymore. You know, Gravik doesn't care who he killed. She was like, there's women, children, old people, there's all kinds of people. He doesn't care. Kill them all. They're gonna kill themselves. Want to, like he doesn't. He has no ounce of
And his
remorse. He
views
doesn't
are
care.
pretty crazy. He's like, they're
Like,
eventually going to wipe themselves out anyway. Just think of it as a service. Like, damn.
oof,
I'm like,
oof,
we're
and
not gonna kill all of us. Come on, we're not all gonna kill every last human. You know, we're
all
gonna
right,
leave some. What
and
you're
at least
doing
it
is
take,
over the top.
and it'll take a while. I mean, we can kill ourselves, but it could
Right.
take.
It's gonna
We
take
could
like
we could
a
still have a
billion
few
years.
hundred
Right.
years.
Million
We
of
could still,
years, maybe. Who knows?
we could still have a while
Right.
before
You
it
want some, let's
happens.
speed up this process. Like, what? You're a
Like, what the
fortune
heck?
teller now? That's your new powers too? Okay. Like, come on, son.
Meanwhile, throughout this whole thing, I don't know if you caught this Easter egg. Some people who aren't necessarily comic fans and just getting into the MCU films might not have seen this hint. But Gaia, through some curiosity, comes across a secret machine being made by Dr. Rosa Dalton. And later on, she's on the computer. You
I
see some.
noticed all of it.
You notice all of
Of
them.
course I did.
All what are they, Raven?
Well,
Tell us,
it's
please.
Groot, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
which, we're realizing that if the scrolls are trying to get powers, obviously these are some of the things that they could be deriving these powers from. The biggest one I saw that I was super hype about is Extremis, because we
Ooh,
haven't seen Extremis since Iron
ooh,
Man 3. And
ooh.
Extremis is a really, really dope comic book line. I actually saw the motion graphic on that one. But it's a really good storyline. We haven't seen anything about Extremists since. But the last time that we did see it, we knew that it was unstable and that it
Mhm.
was causing humans to sort of combust and explode.
Yep. Here's a
So
fun fact.
yeah,
Here's a fun fact that'll make you even happier. In the comics, the Skrulls, one of the Skrulls' greatest nemesis in terms of superheroes is the Fantastic Four. What the Skrulls can't do, and it's established in the series as well, they can mimic the looks of humans, they can copy memories, but they cannot copy abilities. So the superheroes, they can look like Spider-Man, but they won't have Spider-Man's abilities. So what they do some genetic engineering, and in the comics, they genetically engineer the Fantastic Four's powers, and they end up creating something called the Super Skrull, Skrull with all the powers of Fantastic Four. So here's where it gets interesting, right? What are the powers of Fantastic Four? What's Reed Richards? In a nutshell,
stretch.
is stretchy. What can Groot do? Ah. What is Johnny Storm? Blame. What is Extremis? You know, uh, um,
True combustion.
the the thing is, if in a nutshell, he's the big muscle, and
Mm,
what we have is the arm of Cull Obsidian, which is the big beast guy we saw in Avengers Endgame. Remember when Wong cuts his arm off when he's about to attacking New York? They find his arm,
mm.
and then the Frost Beast is the end of Thor: The Dark World. The beast from the Frost Giants world escapes, and that's Ice. And if you look at Ice as almost like Mrs. Fantastic,
Sort of.
so you sort of the visual would be the same, right?
Silver
Visually.
Surfer.
So that's playing on the Fantastic Four's abilities without quite saying
Right, this is
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
that's
a
dope.
wink and a nod, and
That's
that
dope.
big machine seems to be his plan in order to create the Super Scroll. Which again, he kind of mentions that because earlier on in the episode, when he's talking to the council, someone says, well, "What if the Avengers come back?" And he's like, "Oh, I have a plan for that." And that seems to be his plan, is to give himself powers. And I'm excited to see where that goes. If I won't tell people context, but if you've been paying attention to the trailers, there is a scene in the trailer that we see somebody use one of these abilities. Like in context, I'm like, oh shit, that's why we saw that in the trailer. Makes sense.
Mm.
Complete sense. Raven, one of the best. Before we get to one of the best scenes in the movie, I did like when Rhodey goes to the council meeting just to say, "Look, listen, that's not us. This is bullshit. We're America. We don't have to be here. Come back to me when there's evidence. Peace." And
Right.
Slovakia, keep staring at me. Staring at me.
It keeps staring at me. Um, but I also absolutely love that, like, in this scene, you're reminded that's Tony Stark's motherfucking best friend,
Of
right? You put
course.
some respect
Of
on
course.
Rhodey's name because you remember that almost in pretty much every court case, Rhodey was right there,
He's
right next
always
to
there.
every situation, calm as hell. Nah, that's not us. He said alleged, Allegedly.
That could have easily been digitally manipulated.
He said, I'm
Let
not,
our guys take
I
it.
know better than to trust files from Russia.
Oh,
He said
like damn.
you can send them to I'll have my guys analyze them. If
Yeah.
we realize it's real evidence, then we'll get back to you. Like, damn. But
The
I love it
president's
because
too busy.
right, I'm here as a courtesy. Whew, it's like, damn. Because it's like it's disrespectful, but it's also not. It's like, no, it's the truth. Like, why would the president come out if it has nothing to do with him? And that's what
He's
he's saying. Like it
flexing
wasn't us.
flexing America too, when it's just like not nothing to do with him. He doesn't care about this. He's busy running the biggest country in the world, and it's like flex, strongest country in the world, biggest military, blah blah. Like try and mess with us. The subtext is like, don't fuck
Right, like we will fuck you up.
you.
Like, don't forget who you fucking with, bro. Like,
Just be
watch your mouth.
happy.
Watch your mouth.
I'll,
Watch who you talk
I'll,
to.
I'll, I'll put on the suit and copper bomb you.
Right. 100%. And I love that like Rhodey's in this kind of weird, like even though he's kind of stayed the same position, he just got more
Mhm,
respect since he's been gone. There's also
mhm.
theories Rhodey's a scroll, and I don't know.
See, I've been seeing that, and again, it speaks to the great paranoia inducing that the show does.
I don't
My
think
only
so.
thing is that I don't think so because again, you have to look at it from okay, if this isn't a scroll, why are they doing this? The scroll's plan, unless he's a scroll but not siding with Gravik, because Gravik's plan is to blame it on America so he can start a war with Russia and America so that humans can be destabilized. Why would Rhodey be like, no, that wasn't us? He wouldn't fight to say it wasn't us if he's trying
Right,
to
right.
push that.
He would like let
You
that
know,
blow up.
exactly, exactly.
Like literally he'd be
Unless,
like, maybe.
exactly,
Maybe we
exactly.
did. I don't know.
He wouldn't go out of his way to kind of convince them that no, that was not us. 100%. Come back to with evidence that was not us. America refuses and denies that that was us. So that's my thing. Unless again, two reasons: a, he's a scroll working against Gravik, is trying to push against Gravik's plans.
He's
Then
one
it
of
doesn't
us
matter.
scrolls.
He's one of us. So it doesn't make a
Even that,
difference.
there's like three
Whatever.
teams now. So there's like the us
Or
scrolls and then
B,
the them scrolls, and then there's us, like the
and then
humans.
that's the other theory, and this is a theory not yet introduced in the TV show, but it was introduced in the comics. Sometimes Skrulls don't know they are Skrulls. You could be a Skrull Raven and not know it. They have sleeper Skrulls until you're activated.
Ooh, like a Cylon.
Exactly. Like a Cylon. So again, there's that
Wow, it
factor.
could be a
Maybe that's a thing.
Cylon. That's
So right now
crazy.
he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we do know he
What came
admits he did
first, the
know.
Scrolls or the Cylons? Scrolls.
Cylons?
Nerd wise?
No, because don't forget, Cylons were introduced in
That
the
was oh
original
08.
Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, that was 70s.
Actually, no, never mind.
See the Scrolls.
Because no, it was Skrulls because shape shifting Cylons were new. The original Cylons were always robots. They couldn't look like
You
humans.
right. Shapeshifting
Yeah,
came about in 2008. All right.
yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
good. Solve that.
There we go.
Solve
Solve it.
that.
Boom. Nerdy bunch.
You heard it first, guys.
Nobody else solved this except for us.
Super nerd.
We're
No
the
one's thought of
only
it.
ones. Anyone else tries to tell you otherwise, they're liars and they're
It was us.
Skrulls.
They're those scrolls. Uh,
Okay, one of the best scenes of the episode. Can you believe Rhodey and Nick Fury, Sam Jackson, and Don Cheadle have not ever had a scene together in Marvel?
that's one thing I was gonna say too. I noticed in this episode, I was like, oh my god, wait a minute. We have never had them on screen together at the same time. Like we've had them maybe in the same video call, I think, on the Shield screen or whatever in like a
Yeah, yeah,
conference,
yeah.
but we've never
They
actually
went in
seen
the
them
room
in
together.
person. We've just
Yeah.
assumed they were friends, but like
Hmm.
we never actually seen them hang out. But also just like, man, the acting. Oh,
Oof.
I
You
just
could
need a
tell
moment
the
to like,
writers.
whew.
You could tell the writers and director were like, "Oh shit, we've got these two together in the scene. Let's write the shit out of this scene. Let's
They were
give
like,
them
let's
something."
let's give Don
Ugh,
Cheadle and
ugh.
Sam motherfucking Jackson one of the
Let,
best dialogue
let them
scenes
act.
ever made.
Ugh.
Ah, he said, oh, it was just so many good points. I like damn near
Well,
wrote down the entire
oh
conversation
no,
between them.
it's.
I was like,
I
so
literally
many quotes.
copied and pasted it into the Google Doc file.
Dead ass. Um,
Well, again, it's speaking to what you mentioned before that if you look at it from their point of view, they're both right. Are you forgetting who helped you get a seat at the table? Oh, so now I owe you? Is that it? We owe each other. Men who look like us don't get promoted because of who our daddies are.
Mm.
Oof, oof,
First of all, that alone from
oof,
jump, I was like,
oof,
talk yo shit, say like
oof.
because already that was bars. That was already bars. But to
And then you're
say
thinking,
in response,
oof,
like,
hit him, hit him.
whew, because when he was like, you know, I thought your job was protecting the planet, and then he said we protect our planet by protecting our seat at the table. It's so true. We got to fight so
Mhm.
hard to get that seat at the table. The whole point
Yep,
of everything is to maintain that seat. If we are no longer at the seat of the table, we can't continue to promote and uplift and protect others that look like us. You know, unfortunately, with the whole and even the help a brother out. That seems to be
oof,
that seems to be Nick
oof.
Fury's line
Yeah,
in this show. Help a brother out. And the
but I
truth of the
love,
matter is, especially as a black person, you don't get no handouts.
and what I love about this though is that Rhodey reminds him the world is on the line. The enemy is a million times more dangerous than Hydra, but they can only be vanquished by you alone.
Right.
What?
Whew.
And you want me to make the power mean something by helping a brother out?
Mm.
But you should know better than most. The reason we wrestle this power from mediocre men who don't look like us
Ah.
was not simply to turn around and hand it to mediocre men who do. Ooh, ooh, that line, I was like, damn.
Bars.
The point of this
Oh,
power is to
gotta
be
be
uncompromising,
uncompromising.
to be
Whew.
unsparing, to be able to sit across from a man we greatly admire, with whom we share an entire professional, personal, ancestral history with, to tell him without any reservation that he is fired. Oof,
They sent you to fire me?
oof,
Ah.
no, I volunteer. Oof, oh, 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 oh. I was just like, damn.
That
I
whole
mean,
thing was just whew. Like I would have
I
loved to just
love.
be in the room during that scene, during the recording
I'd
that
shiver.
scene.
I'd shiver.
It's one
I'd
of those
shiver.
moments where it's like, damn, I would have loved to be cinematographer on that scene, man.
Right,
Just
right.
so I could be behind the camera, just looking around at everybody like, I caught this. This is on my
Holy
camera. I
shit.
was here on this day where some of the best acting in history ever has gone down. Like,
You know,
ah,
one thing as that you understand as well, as fellow person of color, is sometimes you just get caught up. Like when he says, "We didn't wrestle power from mediocre men to simply turn around and hand it to mediocre men who look like us." It's not about just the color. It's we're not going to just give it to or just because you look like me. No, you still have to have
gotta
that.
earn the part.
We fight for it, for the right people to have it, not just for us to have it and do the same thing.
Right.
Why are we fighting for it? I've always been a person that's like, I'm not going to just support you just because we have the same skin color.
Right. And
I'll
I'm not going
support
to
you
do
because we
the
have the same
same
skin color.
exact thing because
And
that's what we're protesting against is the fact that,
exactly,
you know, people are getting certain jobs not because of their qualifications, but because of their connections and their
yeah,
bloodlines and their skin
yeah.
color. And that's the entire point is that give qualified people the job, regardless of sex, gender, any of those things. Shit, being a scroll,
What
give the qualified person the job, you know, and to be unrelenting and uncompromising, the same way that you want, you know, these people who give handouts to be when it came to you, you
what?
know.
We're not looking for handouts. We're
No,
looking for the same opportunities, the
literally.
same chances. That's what we're asking for. The
Yep.
same chances. Like Nick Fury earlier says, "Oh, we didn't get it because of our daddy." Exactly. We're not trying to keep doing that.
No,
We're trying to change things up.
we
And
don't want
he's
handouts.
right.
We just want the positions that we earned and deserve.
hmm hmm
That's
Though
all.
I did like, you and I have spoken about this, and I kind of believe this. As tough it is for Fury, I feel like Fury's holding back. And when the security guard goes to take him out, he was like, boom, 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 boom. Still got it. Even when I'm out, I'm in.
I was like,
I'm Nick Fury.
okay, Shaft. That was a little creepy, but all right,
Right,
you
right,
got it.
right.
You got it, Nick. Okay.
Are you seriously under the impression that just because you strip me of my titles, I relinquish my DNA?
That I love too. I was like, oh shit. You got
Oh.
Nick Fury twisted. In other
Oh.
words, I will fuck you up.
I still have it in
I
me,
will still fuck you up. Especially now I ain't got no job.
right? Though I
Yeah.
did like that we get a scene afterwards he gets to sit on the bench and he's like, oh my god. Like he's just
because he actually is stressed. That's
frustrated and
his job. But
stressed
also,
so much.
Nick Fury's job is the most important thing to him ever. As much as he might try to front, his whole life revolves around protecting the country and, or quote unquote, whatever he thinks it is, however he has to
Hmm.
justify it for the moment because he thinks it's about everybody else and really it's about him,
Hmm.
But I love that we get to see that. We get to see these vulnerable moments. And also, just one more thing that I didn't get to say is that I love that this scene also deals with the hardships of having a seat at the table while being a person of color, and
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
that when you do get promoted to these positions, you also have to deal with people wanting handouts and things like help a brother out, and I
Hmm.
think that,
Hmm.
that's also something you don't get to see often is that we do get to seat at the table. And when we do get to seat at the table, we don't only get backlash from, other people and other people in the workplace, but even our own, our own who we got the seat at the table for, we somehow
Hmm.
you sometimes get backlash for them because uh, we're not just automatically promoting or, giving people handouts or putting them in positions just because they're, family and stuff. So I love that this whole thing deals with it. And also, like, I also, just because there's a callback to it that we didn't talk about, I love the moment in the train too, where you're reminded of also just how old Nick Fury is. Like, you're
Hmm.
reminded how long Nick Fury's been around. Nick
Tired.
Fury
He's
was
tired.
around at a time where there was still segregated train carts,
Hmm.
and I love that, and that didn't miss me, in
Hmm.
this is that someone like Nick Fury has been around to see all of this happen, has been around long enough to watch change actually
And
happen,
get
but to
get this
also,
power.
right, but to also be aware that things haven't changed that much, you know?
Yeah.
And I do love that, because which is also about what he's saying, we've barely been able to coexist. There's not enough tolerance. And he's seen firsthand the lack of tolerance, because he grew up in a time where we were segregated. So I do
Hmm.
love all of that. And you're realizing now too that, like, something as simple as, generational trauma, Nick Fury kind of now having to deal with not only the trauma of what's happened over the past couple of years with the Avengers, everything like that, but also just growing up as a black man in America and, then also being a part of the politics, I love
And
that
and
we're
even
dealing
then,
with these things.
he's not immune to some of the negative effects, right?
Right.
Because he then turns to Rhodey and says when he kind of throws in his face, like, "How do you think you got there?" And Rhodey's like, "Well, I owe you now."
Right.
That kind of
Right.
I love that moment. It's like, well, yes, you opened doors for me, but not so that I owe you.
Hmm.
So Nick Fury himself, isn't perfect. I
Yeah.
love seeing that.
And as many things
Yeah.
as Nick Fury's achieved, he is still just a black man in Moscow.
Yep. This is very true. This is very true.
you know?
Speaking of, great scene, Sonya interrogation scene. We see
Ooh.
a new sign of Sonya. I love how this interrogation scene is set up because she knows what's going to happen. She knows Gravik and his men are going to come over. That's why
She
she
knows they're
asks,
on his
"Where's the
way.
escape hatch?
They're on their way.
Where's the escape hatch?" Okay, you guys leave because she knows. That's why she even bolts the door. Things like that. you
Also,
know.
random.
I
Is
want.
that a standard? Like, I wanted to like Google it. Like, is there always an
I
escape
mean,
hatch in butchers' freezers? I mean, it would make
I mean,
sense. I would
I
hope
mean,
so.
she's probably also kind of guessing because she knows who she's dealing with. That they're like mafia style
True.
people, that they must have some kind of. Again, that's what I'm assuming. Um, I wonder who was on the phone, because she was when she came to take over the interrogation. She just gave the guy the phone. The guy speaks to somebody. Who's that? Because she works for MI6, which are law enforcement. It's not like she works with the gang members. So I'm curious who that is. Um, she gets. I love that how she confirmed that guy's a scroll, cuts his finger off,
I mean,
and then
that's
she's like,
one way
"I'm
to
gonna
prove it.
that there is one way without killing. And another way to get to talk is to inject him with the thing that's going to make his blood boil. I love that she injects it in the ass. He's like, yeah, get my arm.
'Cause he wasn't expecting that at all.
Arm. Ugh,
When you shot him in the ass, I was like, "Oh, whoa,
ugh,
you just talking
ugh,
shit."
ugh. I'm like, oh, yeah. Which also we get also at the end of the episode, towards the end of the episode, you mentioned earlier with after I love actually let's go back. I love the when they Gravik and his men come in to take out to kind of save one of their men when they come into the butcher shop
First of
and the guy
all,
goes to chop the
Graphic could
meat.
fight.
Oh,
I'm like,
Gravik can
"Ooh,
fight.
Nick. I don't know,
I
Nick.
mean, remember,
I don't
remember,
know."
Skrulls are stronger.
Well,
They are
Skulls is
physically
stronger, but
stronger.
you also realize that
So
like
he's also can
Gravik's
fight
been
too.
actively training this entire time, whereas like Nick, I don't know if you've been doing half the moves, brother.
Well, it's funny. One of my friends mentioned it. He's like, "This is like Star Trek Picard, right? Star Trek Picard was the return of Patrick Stewart, the role of Picard, continuation of Next Generation, but he's old. So you had to have other characters who are young to do the physical stuff against the bad guy. Because at some point there's going to be a fight against the bad guy.
Right.
It's not going to be Nick Fury fighting Gravik. So the question is, who's going to be fighting
That's my
Gravik?
question.
you
I'm
know,
like Nick Fury, you about to get fucked up. I don't know.
which is where I'm getting to. I think it might be Gaia. We're getting snippets of Gaia suddenly realizing what's going on. Oh shit!
She might
Like
be a
what did you
double
think
agent. I
was
don't
going?
know what's going on with her. I'm like, I don't know, because with Gaia, I feel like there's definitely more going on. Like even just something as simple as
Yeah,
her sneaking out and be like, oh, I'm gonna check around the back. I'm like, at bare minimum, she's curious. I don't think
yeah,
that she fully trusts Gravik or
yeah.
Gravik's, cause. I think she did, but I think she's starting to second guess
Mm-hmm.
his movements, especially things like him killing other scrolls. I think for her,
That's what I was getting
that's
to.
yeah,
That's crossing a line. I think she's upset about the promises not being made, for
right.
sure. But I don't think she's willing to go as far. And I don't think she realized how far he was willing to go. And I think he also knew that too because clearly he kept things from her because she didn't know about these experiments, right? Because the other right hand guy knew about it,
He knows about
so she's
everything.
she's she's kept at arm's
He
length,
drinking the Kool Aid though.
right?
He's lost in the sauce. Homie's deep. He's in there deep.
Right. Like killed his own friend. Her reaction, just like when in the car, it's just like oh, realizing that maybe this wasn't something that I realized was going to happen. But the episode ends. Raven, we talked about this. Yeah, and we mentioned we were like, oh, what if Gravik is Nick Fury's son? Did Nick Fury hook up with a Skrull? We were kind of half right.
See, the thing is, the thing that made me think there was gonna be something deeper there was in episode one when Nick Fury said, "I've seen some attractive scrolls, and you are not one of them."
hmm
I was immediately like,
hmm
"You peeping? You looking at the scrolls?
hmm
You've been checking out the scrolls, Nick?" And then look, here we go. Lo and behold, he was checking them out so much he married one.
and it's not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure it's the same scroll we see at the beginning who introduces him to Gravik. I feel like it looked
Mm,
like the same woman, but it's not confirmed. Um, Either way, it's interesting. There's a subsect of fans, and I'm not one of them that like, oh, because she changed, he doesn't know that she's a scroll. I'm like, no, I think he does.
mm,
I think he does know that she's a scroll. It's an interesting narrative, especially considering that just because he says there's not enough tolerance for scrolls to live on Earth doesn't mean he hates scrolls.
right,
He's just aware of the reality of things.
right.
And there's a
But
line
if
in
anything, maybe it's even a bigger deal to him because he's in love with the scroll.
yes,
You know what
yes.
I'm saying? He understands the danger of the scrolls going to war. He understands that if the scrolls go to war, his wife is now officially an enemy. How hard is that going to be
No,
for
true,
him?
true.
You work on the opposing force. Like now, as of now, they're your allies. It's not a big deal that you're married to a scroll. But if scrolls start acting up and start waging wars and doing acts of terrorism, now you have to explain that you are married to a presumed terrorist. So I get, and also poor Nick Fury is under a lot of pressure now. There's a million scrolls out here. It's your fault. 2,000 people are dead, innocent humans. That's your fault. Maria Hill is dead. That's also your fault. You left all these scrolls unattended. That's your fault. You lied to
America's
Gravik.
being blamed.
That's your fault. Yeah. You're about to start World War III. That's also your fault. Damn, Nick. You fucking up,
Wow,
bro.
wow.
Nick
And,
is
and
Nick
I'm
is in some
curious,
deep shit. That's why he was having his little moment on the park bench. Homie
right?
stressed.
I'm curious how long he's been married to her for. Like, has it been 30 years?
Right.
Is
They've
it,
been together since the
was he already
90s.
married when we first saw him in Iron Man 1? Was he already married then?
Right.
Obviously he knew the scrolls. He knew the scrolls before then, but was he married? A couple of favorite moments.
Mm.
You can tell me some of yours as well. One of my favorite, just visual moments, great directing. One of the opening scenes where Nick Fury gives his speech and says he wants to join me, you see them all turn from scroll to human form. Later on in the council meeting, when Braddock says he wants to join me, the old turn from human to scroll form. I love that kind of
I do
mirroring of the
like that.
scenes.
I do like
Great,
that.
great, great.
One of the things I loved was the moment of what's her name coming in? The Russian woman. What's her name? Um,
Oh, Sonya.
Sonia, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
When
it's British.
Sonia came in and the guy tells her that door is locked, she says, wait, wait, what did she say? Now that the door is unlocked, what's that tell you about me and doors?
Can I tell you, Olivia Colman is
I
just
love
having a
her
lot of
so
fun.
much.
She's having so much fun on
Has
this,
to be.
just being, but you can tell she's still dead.
She's
Like,
terrifying. Because the fact that she can smile all the way through knowing all these people are
right,
about to die, like everyone she just encountered in the past 5 minutes is about to
right.
die, and she could just be so happy and whimsical about it
Like,
is terrifying.
what are your thoughts, nerdies? Find us on social media at the Nerdy Bunch. I'm sure you're just as paranoid as we are. I'm still looking
Dave
at
could be a
Raven.
scroll. I don't even know if I'm talking
Is,
to the right person.
is, is there any green on you? Because that's what some people on the internet say. Like everyone who's been revealed to be a skull had something green on it. I haven't looked back to check. Pay
I
attention,
may or
but
may not have green locks.
yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
that's scroll suspicious.
I don't know. You got a
The
green
scroll,
tint over there, Dave. I
yeah,
don't know. The
looking scroll
lighting's looking a
suspicious.
little
Look,
green.
looking mighty scroll suspicious
I
here.
don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway, on that note, thank you, Raven.
Thank you.
My name's English Dave, and this has been a Nerdy Bun presentation of Something to Marvel About, where we talk about MCU releases. And this week we spoke about Secret Invasion, Episode 2, Promises. Raven, I promise you, I will see you next week.
For sure.
And as always, Raven,
Keep it nerdy. Peace.
peace.